Hey, Charles.
Hey, Mel.
What's up, Charles? We're live, Charles.
We are live. Yes. Aloha,
And it is
everyone. Yes,
Aloha Friday.
it is targeted. Today is Aloha Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so good to be with all of you. I'm Charlie. That's our brother Mel right there. It is
Aloha,
Friday, the
everyone.
31st. Can you believe that? It's the 31st, going into August already.
Bro, it seems like the year just started. It
Yep.
really does. And it is already August 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Where has this year gone? I don't know. Um, it's almost scary, I guess,
Yep.
because it's going by so fast. But I don't know, Charlie. You're a little older than I, not much, but um, does it does
Yeah.
it go quicker as you get older? I mean, I don't like to start you laughing. I don't want to start you laughing.
Fella. Let me tell you, us old folks. Now,
I mean,
it's
seriously, Charlie, it was just January, man. I remember just talking about the new year and hoping that everyone would have a good, prosperous new year, and it's already
mm,
August.
well, well. Before I
Ah,
go on and I give you my impression on what's going on, we've got 80 people on the line right now. I ask you kindly to please share this segment with all of your friends out there. Make it an eventful night. Let me kind of tell you what my read on it is, Mel. Psychologically, they say that when you have events that's especially horrific events, right? Uh, and they come in succession. They tell you that that occupies your subconscious level of your mind, and basically what happens is you just lose all track of time. That's what happened to me. And what was funny is every single time he goes, "It's Aloha Friday," brother. The next day I make my video, right? I lose all track of time. So a couple of times I put the wrong day. I just lost all track of time, and that's what happens, man.
it's horrible. I mean, but that's just the way it goes.
Hmm?
What are you gonna do? Time stops for no one.
Right.
So you got to make the best of what you got, really, and that's kind of what it's coming down to. It as you get older in life, you start thinking about, my God, we're on the back nine of life's golf course. We're on the back nine, and you got to make it count. So
Well, just remember, tonight's show is brought to you by one of our sponsors, Geritol.
hey, I want to, I know Derek's in the waiting room, so we're going to actually bring him in early tonight because I want to, I want to get the most from our mayor. And I told the mayor it's his hour. He gets to talk about whatever he wants. We'll field questions if it's appropriate, but we just wanted to give the mayor an opportunity to give us an update. He's man, I tell you, imagine Charlie being the mayor of this county who's done extremely well over the months. But it's constant. I can only imagine what he's going through every single day. So,
No,
to
but
get him for an hour,
so
it's
real quickly now, and also his lovely wife is a school teacher,
yeah,
and to be faced with this on top of that,
yeah, yeah,
it's a
exactly.
lot.
I mean, the school situation is one component. We got the unemployment one component. We got the travel. There's just so many things, so many moving parts right now,
Mhm.
that his head has to be spinning. And so I'm excited to have him on tonight. But I did, just before we bring him in, I wanted to thank each and every one of you. Last night we had Dr. T on. He shared his keiki masks, or I'm sorry, the keiki shield. And I am so happy to say that as of right now, uh, we have raised about $4,000, which will get us 4 cases of shields for our kids. That equates to 400 shields. And Dr. T is kicking in a case. He's going to donate. That's $1,000. He's going to donate $1,000 worth. So we will have 500 shields for our kids that's going back to school. that can't afford it. So I just wanted to thank you, Charlie, thank Dr. T, thank all of you that stepped up and made. We had donations from $20 up to $500. We had a couple of $500 donors, and I just cannot thank you enough. It is amazing. We did that all in about 20 minutes. We did that in about 20 minutes, Charlie. So I just wanted to thank every one of you, each and every one of you that was on last night, and especially those that donated to the cause. So we'll have 500 shields that's going to go out to our kids that need it before they start school, whenever that day may be. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, you ready to bring?
I'm going to bring him in because it's early, and it's you know what the best thing about having the mayor on. The best thing about having the mayor on. I know it's early. He probably is expecting to come on at 7, but the best thing about having Mayor Kawakami on is we're going to end up the night with a new T-shirt. We are going to end the night with a new T-shirt. I know Kirk's going to be on if he's not already, and we will have a new T-shirt. I know Kirk made you a couple of shirts. Hey, Derek. I know we brought you on a little. He's connecting to audio. I'm not sure what.
There he is. There he is, right
He's
there.
on.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes,
We're not live, are we?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Oh, we already are live?
Yes.
Yeah, I brought you on a little early because I respect your time, and I want to squeeze as much time out of you as I can. And like I just told the people.
You guys cannot do that because I was going to open up with just the straight talk. Like the talk
hang on.
happen.
Hold on. Mayor, hang on. I'm gonna send you back to the room.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna bring you on. Okay? Then hang on. I'm gonna send you back to the waiting room. That's the only time I'm gonna be able to tell a mayor what to do. Anyway, we're gonna bring him on because he had a plan, right? And we just blew it. We just blew it. That's how you know this is not scripted. Live TV. And I stopped over at Troy's before I came home because my good friend, my classmate from Honolulu came by. I wanted to go pay our respects to Troy for his loss, for his fiance, I guess. Unfortunately, Troy wasn't there. He was he went to go crabbing today, which is a good thing. I love Troy, man, and he's just going through a lot right now. But I got to tell you, Charlie, there was a doorman that was in there that had a mask. So he came up and he said that he loves our show. He watches every night. And tonight, because we have the mayor on, he's going to broadcast it on the TV.
No.
In Troy. So Lord have mercy. We have a worldwide audience tonight. So anyway, let's pretend we're starting all over. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you guys tonight to Mel and Charlie's Facebook Live. And our special guest tonight is Mayor Kawakami. And we're going to let him in right now. It's quite special. I mean, how many shows out there can get the mayor come on? And oh, there he is. Aloha, Mayor, and welcome to Facebook Live. Appreciate you taking your time to spend with us tonight. The smile, I don't. Stop, Charlie. Stop right now, Charlie. Stop.
Why are you guys laughing?
That's just what Charlie does.
Is there some sort of inside joke that I'm?
No,
I mean,
no, not at all.
You are the innovator that started it all off during that one interview that started the shirts. And because of you, we've raised a ton load of money. And we just last night, we just had a spur of the moment fundraiser for getting shields, the small masks for our keikis in our school. We raised over 4,000 last night. So we're going to bring it up and we're going to give it to the DOE, and they're going to, distribute however they feel fit for the needy family that their kids need masks, just to give them that, for those families who are still worried, give them that extra sense of protection. And it's because of you. We started it all because of you.
Oh, that's good. That, man, I tell you, what are you sitting on?
Huh?
What is that thing behind you? It looks like a throne, but like, what is it?
This supposed to be it's supposed to be one of those video background screens. So when I
Yeah.
ordered it, it looked good, but the model must have been like 4 feet and 90 pounds. So when I put them next to me at 300 at 6'1", the thing looked like a giant suppository behind me.
I mean, but I think the concept is to have maybe the camera only show the background and not. You sure you're using it right? You sure it's not one of those things that photographers use to bounce light off? Like somebody has to hold it, like with
Well,
silver and white.
it is so big. I think I need it for my dump truck, for the when I park them and I like block out the sun. I put them on the windshield. That's what.
Everybody's trying to figure out what that is. You're the only guy that had the courage to ask. A lot of people think it's a chair. Some people, I thought it was a big, big boogie board. But I think you're right, Mayor. I think that's supposed to be, like the camera should be closer so the background is filled with the blue.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Charlie, he called you the innovator, but I think Charlie is the innovator
It's
now he's
actually
gonna.
supposed to be like this. There. You see that? Something like that. But I just wanted to give something different, just short of oh,
And there he goes. That's a $5 fine. That's a
that's a $5 fine. Yep. But anyway, I
Anyway,
want
Mayor,
to put
we
something there.
appreciate you being on tonight. I know you're a very busy guy. It's been a while since you've been on, and a lot has changed. A lot, some for the good, and as it relates to COVID and the numbers, not so good. But I can be honest, Mayor, and I think I speak for a lot of people on this call as I see the comments coming up. We're very thankful and blessed to have you as the mayor, a leader, a bold decision maker, and we appreciate that. And I think as you see the comments from others from the other counties, they like Bauer you, but that ain't gonna happen. That's just not gonna happen. So, but from the last time you were on, a lot has changed. If I saw you for a little bit the other day, and this hour is yours, Mayor, to update us on what you feel is important. We'll field some questions as they come up, but there's a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to waste no more time. The floor is yours, my friend.
I'm gonna need help
Okay.
because it's Friday. Um, I'd be lying if I didn't say that, by the time Friday comes, I'm waiting for it. But even when it comes, Saturday and Sunday is just as much a grind because you don't take a day off when you have a disaster, and this is what it is. It is a disaster, and it's a pandemic, and it doesn't take a break. So we're always planning, and but I have to tell you, as much as as much as the credit comes in and all the thanks and accolades come in, it goes beyond that. It has to do with having a good team and having trust in that team, and making sure that everybody is doing their part. And I have a wonderful team, and we have a wonderful system in place, that if anybody were to, I guess, be sidelined for a little bit, we can fill in those gaps quickly. But the huge component of this team is that it's this whole island in general. Of course, not everybody subscribes to some of the mandates that we've had to impose. And yes, by now, people are starting to get fatigue, as far as having to wear masks and understanding why we have to do certain things when Kauai's been relatively safe. And I get that all the time, and I get it, But I gotta tell you, Kauai is safe because people, for the most part, have been doing everything we've been asking them to do. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank those folks who have made personal sacrifices, that have, wore a mask, whether they believe in it or not. I had a friend, and I won't expose him, but I know that he's one of those folks that thinks that perhaps this is not as serious as the media or government control. Like, look, it's just me. I'm Derek Kawakami, the same guy that surfs. There is no conspiracy. I am not trying to mind control or overregulate. Most people that know me as one of the most free-spirited, independent type of folks that loves my freedom. I love my firearms. I love hunting. It's unfortunate that the situation has been politicized, and quite frankly, it disgusts me, because there's a time and place for politics, and this is not the time or place. But for those folks, and back to my friend, I know for a fact that if it weren't me in office, he'd probably be one of those folks that is, putting up a resistance. From time to time, I'll see him commenting on Facebook saying, wear your mask. And when I have a personal conversation, I ask him, we have these conversations and it's a philosophical debate, but I ask him, if you don't, why are you chirping on Facebook and social media, telling guys and regulating and telling people just wear your mask, And he goes, because I want to help you. I have my own thoughts, but if this is what we got to do, then this is what we got to do. And that's sort of, that goes beyond just my one friend. I know there's people out there that are just, this sucks. But if this is what has to happen, this is what needs to happen. And, I just wanted to start off by thanking everybody out there who's been able to grind it out. I know it's not easy. I know at times people can't understand, why do we have to do this on Kauai? Our case count is low. Our case count is low is because people are putting the work in. We're actually enforcing on quarantine. The other islands have different ways to enforce it. We're actually enforcing it. And the only way we can do that is because we have a police department that has prioritized and has not said, no, that's somebody else's job. Well, quite frankly, nobody else can enforce but our law enforcement officers. And so it's like, we're safe because this island is putting in the work that needs to be done to keep it safe. So please, if you enjoy the relatively safe environment that we live in, it's because there are a lot of people doing what they need to do, and it's not just government. At this point, from the beginning, there's a saying, and I didn't invent it, but it surely, when you put the formula together, it works because it's simple. It's plan, execute, control, common sense. And I'll break it down to you. What our role was when we started and continue to do is create a plan. That's what we did. That's what the incident management team did, is they all came together and we formulated our plan, and they executed the plan, and they controlled the situation. So government came in, we executed the plan that we built, and we showed the people, like, look, this stuff works. We were able to really keep Kauai safe. And these are the things you need to do, like follow us, let's be a part of this journey together. And that's where common sense comes in, right? There's no such thing as common sense until you build in this common knowledge of what works and what doesn't work. So we're able to show that these measures, they work. When we're able to physically distance and have the discipline, if we're gonna gather and if we're gonna celebrate, look, it's not like you can see the virus, right? It's one of those things. And at this point, we continue to really relay the message that it's relatively simple things that need to happen that are an inconvenience at this time. But look, the whole world is going through it. And Kauai and the state of Hawaii has a vantage point where we sit upon a crow's nest and we can see what's happening to other cities and other small towns, small countries, large towns, of what happens when people relax, when they open up too quick, and they have this big outbreak that forces them to shut down again. Like we have the ability to be able to see almost like what's going to happen here if we try to do the same things that other people have tried that don't work. And that's really the definition of insanity, when you try to do something over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Like, look, there's no magic air in Kauai. If we do the same things that other places have done that have been proven to be unsuccessful, we're bound to have history repeat itself. And in this case, with an island that has a limited healthcare capacity, you know, we just can't afford to try to do what other places have done. Case in point, just recently, I think it was some summer camp in Georgia that had, you know, a camp in June, and they had like almost like 60 or something like 70% of the campers and kids come down with coronavirus. And this is after, you know, people have thought that kids are not susceptible to the virus, that they're not transmitters of the disease. Like, look, it's a coronavirus. This thing changes and we learn more and more about it, which I'm pretty sure people are interested on what my opinion on the reopening of schools are. And we can talk about that. But when I say from the beginning, I'm gonna need help, I'm gonna need help because there's so many things on my mind right now that if you leave it up to me, it's gonna be like a 10-hour show. And if I start talking too much, you just gotta come in. So I'll wrap it up with that. That's a long intro.
Let me ask you a question that's been, you know, as you know, both Mel and I, we catch a lot of questions on Messenger, the backside of Facebook. And, you know, we try to answer it, and some of it is just, it's very complex, the questions they ask. One was, and I think you just mentioned it a little while ago, is that, you know, it seems like this state now is dependent upon Oahu because Oahu just has the major sprays, and it's unfortunate. And that we know it's not coming from the outside because, you know, our tourist rate is still relatively low. So how do you feel about, you know, someone asked me to ask Mary, hey, would you want to see Kauai open up ahead of Oahu? Because Oahu doesn't seem to be handling, I mean, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it just, the overall appearance is, they're just not handling the getting control of the virus. That's one. And two is the governor and the health director both had conflicting statements about contact tracing. One said, yeah, we got it under control. And the governor came on the backside and says, no, we don't have it under control. So it leaves lay people like ourselves wondering, you know, what do we do? These are our leaders. And yet so I think that's why a lot of them, you take bold initiative and you did what you had to do. And yet they don't see that out of our leaders at the top. And I think that's the reason why the question is, what do we do?
Well, that's a good question. And, you know, you guys probably hear about trigger points, right? Like, what are the trigger points to scale back? And, you know, everybody has a different opinion. You know, everybody, you know, I mean, some operations are looking for guidance from the state level, from the very top of the leadership, which would be the governor's office. You know, I think what we've done on Kauai, and I think it's just who we are as a people. You know, we're very independent in nature, and sometimes that independence can kind of be counterproductive to sort of our mission, because this is really a community-wide mission. The government cannot do it on its own. The people got to buy in. But we base our trigger points on what we feel is right. You know, like I tell people, you know, we're all born with a set of instincts. And as time has gone on, many of our instincts have dulled just because of whatever which reason, you know, complacency, sometimes technology, depending on other people to protect us. And when you let those naturally born and instilled instincts get dull, you tend to freeze like a deer in headlights. If you ever seen a deer with a spotlight shown on it, it just freezes. It doesn't know what to do. And a lot of the time, we had to make these decisions that a lot, people second guessed it. I second guess my own decisions every single day in this situation, because people got to realize that every action we take has a consequence. There is really very little reward. If you prioritize health, there's going to be an economic cost to it. If you prioritize economy, there's going to be a health cost to it. This is just the nature of this virus. And so every action we make has a consequence on either side of the coin. And what we need to do is be able to identify these consequences and mitigate them with the resources. And that's going to require collaboration. That's going to require taking all of our resources and really aiming it as to how we can best utilize it, because it's running out. But when it comes down to should we open up before Oahu, I don't know what, in what sense that open up means. Open up the economy or open up travel. Like right now, just because Oahu is sort of, has a flare up, that makes it hard for anybody to open up as far as the economy, because everything flows through Oahu. Like right now, what the discussion was, and if you folks heard, for inter-island quarantine, that 14-day mandatory inter-island quarantine to be reinstalled and redeployed is very much a topic of discussion with all the counties right now, because of the threat that inter-island travel poses to Kauai and the other islands. And I said that that would be a last resort, because it's heartbreaking to have our island work so hard to get up to this point, only have to walk back a few steps because of this. But based on the numbers that are occurring, it's going to be a topic of discussion when we have our rules meeting on Monday. And I have to say, as much as I wouldn't want to, if it needs to happen, we're going to make that call and not hesitate. And we're going to be held accountable for our actions. So I would say that Kauai is in a role to make decisions and not wait for someone to make that decision for us, because indecisiveness, not being able to make a decision, is toxic to any organization. You have a set of options, you have the facts in front of you, you make a call. And in this situation, nobody really wants to make that call because of those consequences I talked to you about. It's hard, I understand it. But I mean, I gotta tell you, this is a type of work environment that I thrive in. The high stress, you gotta, it's A or B, which one you're gonna pick. It's easy to make a decision because, like I said, we have a good team in place and we have a good system in place. And the decision I make is not one that I'm making on my own. Even though at the end of the day, I'm held accountable, I sleep well at night knowing that it went through the process and that I have all the backup I need at that point in time.
And I think let's stay with that inter-island quarantine, because I think based on what I've seen in the comments, I think a lot of the people on Kauai are concerned. I think a lot of the people on Kauai no one wants to wear a mask. No one wants to be locked down. No one wants to be told you got to go to quarantine. But likewise, we don't want to be stuck with a virus, knowing that we had an opportunity to at least slow it down or stop it. So as far as the community is concerned, I believe, and even reading the comments now coming on, that people support that. We are afraid. I think most of us are afraid that without that inter-island quarantine, we'll see more of those cases pop up. No one wants that. I mean, of course, and we appreciate your honest comments, and I think that's what I'm seeing here on the post. But that is something, that decision is going to have to be made soon, and I would guess it's probably going to be next week. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, and people got to realize that I believe that the governor is one to make that call because um, it deals with things that are within his jurisdiction to be able to control. But if we got to send up a local rule, we will, and we understand the consequences that come with that action. Once again, it's gonna be a hardship because there's decreased amount of people coming to Kauai. We rely on those people to spend their money. But as I've said, this virus almost forces people to sort of shelter in place until we can all emerge. Now the uncertainty is, when does that time and place where we can really fully emerge without really overrunning our healthcare system, when does that occur? And that's a question that we look and we try to answer every single day ourselves as well. So yeah, I mean, like anything, I mean, we've done things that the state and other counties have picked up on, and there's certainly things that we have adopted from other counties, and that's just the nature of it. And we collaborate closely. But when we feel that our instincts are telling us that this is the right thing to do, we just move on it. We're not going to wait for somebody to tell us, yeah, it's okay, or we don't really think about how the public is going to have an opinion on it, because quite frankly, um, it's almost like fantasy football, Mel. I mean, I have friends that play fantasy football and they get so engrossed into it and they have drafts, and come Sunday, it's almost like, and I don't play fantasy football just because I don't have time, but some of my friends, it's almost like they feel like they're the actual NFL coach. Like they know how to run a team, and it's all fun. Like fantasy football is great because it makes the game interesting. It gives people an opportunity to feel engaged. But some of them actually think like they can get onto that football field and run an NFL organization. And in a sense, because you have so much information from media sources, the CDC gives out guidance in one day and then the next day they're changing their mind. We understand that there are people that think they know how to run this thing, but I can tell you, if they were to walk into the EOC and see what that team actually comprises of, I mean, I think they would have a different opinion on how decisions are made. And I wish I could have a camera that documents the whole operation, because that would probably give a lot of people a better sense of security as to how Kauai's decisions are made. Unfortunately, there is confidential information that it's just not in my authority to release, and it is what it is. But I gotta tell you that people that second guess some of the decisions that we're making, that's fine, but there is a good process behind me, and it's a lot bigger organization than just me. I just happen to be, at the forefront of the whole operation. So,
I think, in all honesty, Mayor, I don't think anybody would question that at this time because everything is so critical, and it's like a raging forest fire moving at you at high speeds. What do you do? Do you try to cut that break, or do you try to outrun it because you don't have enough water? And I think that's where we're at this point. I mean, that's just my take on it. But one thing that I wanted to ask you is, we've been inundated with questions about our schools, and I know your lovely wife is a school teacher, and there's all different facets of what kind of plan would work, what kind of plan wouldn't work. I mean, you got all different ages, what would work well with smaller kids that would be a little bit too boring for the older kids. What's your take on opening schools? What do you think should take place first before you even consider opening a school?
well, my mom was a school teacher. My mother-in-law is a school teacher. I'm married to a school teacher. Um, some of the most influential people in my life that got me to where I am were all school teachers, people like Mr. Tokita, who, a lot of students, they say he's the strictest teacher at Kauai High School. And I don't know if he's softened up over the years, but when we were going through school, it was folks like him, Larry McIntosh, my band instructor. I mean, these teachers didn't necessarily, put it this way, I don't necessarily remember everything that they taught me, but I do remember that they held me accountable. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't have a problem with their reopening plan because they made adjustments to it. When they first presented the plan, they did things that made us scratch our head, like kids do not need to wear masks when they're indoors, but they need to wear it when they're outdoors. And we were like, that makes no sense, because the biggest threat is when you're an indoor type of situation versus the outdoors is relatively safer. It's easier to distance. You have better circulation. And so they made adjustments, and I understand that CDC guidelines have shifted from the beginning to the end. So based on when they started planning, they could have been, working on different guidelines, but they made adjustments. But when you take a look at the plan, and here's the thing, I actually read plans. So I read the plan. It's their return to learn plan. And the type of school setting that they're describing to the public is when we are in the recovery phase. So you know how everything has had impact levels? We had stay at home. That was the first thing, essential versus non-essential. Then we transitioned into safer at home, where we're encouraging people, hey, it's still safer to be at home. And that's when we were doing our whole stay home Kauai, when we had, that stay home order and safer at home. And then we transitioned into act with care, which is where we're at. And these are all things that are in the governor's reopening plan, as well as the Department of Education's opening plan. So they're lining up. And then after act with care, you have recovery. And then after recovery, you have new normal. So when the Department of Education is presenting their plan to our team and to the public, that model of school that they're describing is staged in the recovery phase. And there are key points that you have to hit to get to that recovery phase that we haven't even hit yet. In fact, we're in act with care, and we're closer to transitioning back to safer at home, which is, in my opinion, where we should be, than we are moving forward. And so I'm like, hey, we don't have a problem with the plan, but you guys should follow the plan. Like, you guys cannot force us into a recovery phase just to accommodate your timeline of reopening. Like, that's not the way these things work. And furthermore, I have to tell you that our incident management team, when we have a disaster and we activate, it's comprised of different members that have expertise in different levels of subject matter. And the services that we offer to other government agencies, our own county operation, and even private sector, is we help formulate plans to give them the best chance of success when they have to reopen during a time of disaster. And so bars, hair salons, golf courses, our own county operations, restaurants, and now gyms are starting to reach out to us. And we always outreach to them. We always say, hey, come and work with us so that we can look at your plans. Like, what we do is we tell them, give us your reopening plan and let us take a look at it. And for a lot of them, they have great plans already. Like, the hair salons already had protocols in place that we were like, wow, this is good to go. The Department of Education has a seat as a part of our incident management team. Every single disaster, whether it's a flood or hurricane, during a pandemic, we expect them to be engaged in our operation. And they were initially engaged, And to no fault of anybody at the local level, okay? This has nothing to do with Bill Arakaki, Paul Zine, or anybody on the local level. But from what I understand, they were asked to remove themselves. And for whatever which reason, I'm not going to speculate. Maybe the higher ups didn't understand the importance of engaging with us. But it's important to engage with us because we get to walk them through what we think is good guidelines for Kauai. Because to tell you the truth, the only people that can make decisions for Kauai is Kauai decision makers. It cannot happen from up above because we're just unique. We're not the same as Oahu. And I'm glad that they've finally been given orders to start re-engaging with us. And working with Paul Zina at a local level has been a blessing, and working with Bill Arakaki at a local level has been a blessing. But they can only do what they can do if they're instructed to from their higher ups. And so they are now re-engaged. We're working with them to see if there's ways that we can assist in the safe reopening. But in my opinion, I'm glad that they took a pause to reassess things, because I'm not sure if they have all the necessary PPE for teachers, or if once again they expect teachers to foot the bill and buy their own things, which is what they do, right? These teachers got to buy their own school supplies for kids that cannot. Oftentimes they're given a quote on how much paper they can print for their instructions. So if they run out of paper, they're buying their own paper. And I know this because, hey, I'm the one buying it for, you know what I mean, for my wife. And it is what it is. Like, these are public servants, and they're gonna do what they gotta do. But we cannot send them into a hornet's nest without giving them the proper protection and training. And so I'm glad that they're taking the extra time to train these teachers, make sure that the classroom itself is a safe setting. Because if you're gonna rush it, I mean, who wants the school setting to be the source of a big outbreak on Kauai, right? I mean, you're gonna be, I mean, who wants that label, right? And so that's my opinion on schools, is they should take the time to do it right. You know, the military, especially the special forces, they have a good term in relation to close quarter combat, that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And if that doesn't make sense to people, just think about it. When you are re-emerging, taking the time and moving slowly but smoothly equates to quickness, because you don't have disruptions. You don't have these situations where you got to shut things down and roll things back and start from square one again. And so really that's the tempo that I think all operations should be taking at this point in time.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I think you brought up a really, really good point regarding the phases. You know, we know one thing, and there's no dispute in the discussion about this virus having a mind of its own. You know, this virus doesn't operate on a timeline. We talked about this last night on the show with Dr. T. This virus doesn't have a timeline. It's not like a hurricane where you go, you know, category 1, category 2, category 1, tropical storm, and it passes. This thing, we don't know where it's going to go. No one can dictate where it's going to go. And we're in there right now. And yet this state has continuously put deadlines, timelines with specific dates. And it's confusing for us. And, you know, obviously we don't have the information like you all do, but you talked about the safer at home phase, which is where you felt we should be. And I agree. I think that is where the state needs to be, not Kauai, not Honolulu, the state. Because had we were at stay at home, went to safer at home. If our numbers back when we were at safer at home had jumped to 124, 123, and we had that spike, we would never have left that phase.
Yeah.
We would have stayed in that phase. So now, wouldn't it make sense that if our numbers are now spiking, let's say we don't go back to safer at home, but I agree with you, I think we should not be even talking about a date to open anything right now. That's just my opinion. I mean, I think we got to ride this thing out. And we know that you took bold action early on before the state did, in many situations or many circumstances. In fact, you just came back and reduced the gatherings numbers again, the indoor gatherings to 10 again. And I did want to talk about that too. Uh, Bold moves, but necessary moves. And I think where I'm trying to get to is, if in fact Kauai, because we've always had a very low viral load because of early actions I think that you and your team took, if we can isolate, if the governor was to implement, and this is going to be a question, if the government was to implement an inter island quarantine, let's say Monday he comes out, he says, inter island quarantine, then I think Kauai would be able to support our local economy. I think we would be able to do what we're doing with precaution, wearing the mask, social distancing, but being able to go out and support our local businesses, whether it's takeout or whatever it may be, if we were to protect our people from additional viral load. And that is what I am hoping that we will at some point get to with our state, saying, hey, we're going to reinstate the inter-island quarantine. So Kauai, because we worked hard, you guys worked hard, you laid the foundation for us to follow, which provided the results that we got. But let us enjoy our local island economy without the threat of virus coming in. And we could do a whole, we could continue to patronize our local establishments. Just wanted to get your thought on that.
Yeah, like we're not gonna. Yeah, we don't hesitate to jump the gun. Like what if we're one day we're gonna map this out on a timeline on all the different moving pieces. But you remember when we first did the stay home order, we were much more restrictive, and we got pounded on by different industries. When you looked at the definition of essential worker versus non-essential worker, like Kauai, we put on way more restrictions. Like we didn't release landscapers to get back out to work until, weeks after, the rest of the state just kind of allowed everybody right off the bat. But we're also, and it goes back to Charlie's question, should we reopen sooner? We were able to reopen sooner. We were able to move towards the act with care and reopen other things like dine-in restaurants before other counties, just because we went 10 weeks without a confirmed case. And it's because we had a really good system in place. As far as, if the inter-island quarantine happens again, Mel, like, look, the consequence is there's gonna be continued economic hardship. Like I don't think we have the customer count on island to sustain all the businesses. And then especially like the guys that are suffering are the folks that like they have guided experiences, right? Like Kauai ATV, all of the sort of industries like the luau's, gig workers, musicians, you have cosmetologists that really market themselves to the wedding sort of market. So those folks are going to continue to suffer. And they suffer now because even with the inter-island travel, it's not bringing enough foot traffic. But we would have to. I mean, if we have to do an inter-island quarantine, I think we really got to push forth the effort to support our local mom and pops. And that's why we created programs with our Office of Economic Development and of course, folks like the Chamber of Commerce and other partners to do the Kupa'a Kauai program, where we really try to bring resources to our local businesses and get those messages out to support your neighbor. Because at the end of the day, local mom and pops are the ones giving back to the Pop Honor teams and the Little League teams. Like they keep the money here. But you're right. No matter what, if we do go back to inter-island quarantine, we're gonna have to lean on each other a lot more. We're gonna have to try to make sure we can support to the best of our ability our local economy. And that's why I say, like, the beginning of the operation, we're really focused on what needs to be done to address the health crisis. But what we need to do better on and what needs to have to happen is as a state, and that requires all of us, we got to be better at spending our money when it comes to even like CARES Act money, which was flawed from the beginning. Like we appreciate it, but it could have been crafted better so that smaller colonies like Maui, Big Island, and Kauai got the resource directly channeled through us. And then when I say that with every action comes a consequence, we have to collectively come together to mitigate those consequences. Say, if we delay the reopening of schools anymore, we understand these are the consequences. Kids that need to be fed are going to need to be fed. Kids that require childcare because mom and dad or the family has to go to work and these kids are too young to be at home alone, we're gonna have to focus efforts to stand up those kind of childcare needs. Like we should be channeling all of our resources to filling in these gaps, because we realize that it's gonna be a slow and long haul before things get back to normal. But the discussion that I gave the team today is that over the weekend, I want them to think deeply about the reinstatement of this inter-island 14-day mandatory quarantine and what type of consequences are going to come about and what type of resources we are going to need to utilize to be able to the best of our ability help to mitigate the consequences of our actions. I don't know, that's confusing to some, but
Thank you.
I'm trying my
Very
best.
clear. Very clear. Very clear. Thank you.
Mayor, question, and this is, we've heard this a lot too. With regards to the number of infected cases that's on the rise, today it was down a little, but nevertheless, it went from teens to hundreds now. And there's some speculation that depending on testing, it can jump well into two to 300. You know, we don't know, but there seems to be a lot of it on Oahu. Those numbers alone seems to be right now, seems to be sort of taking charge, you know, taking charge of what the state does. And when talks are underway, is it at any time ever removed? Because we have to hope and bank on the fact that the DOH can get it under control, even though the appearance, and I guess a lot of it goes to the messaging. The messaging is just not coming across to say that it's under control. So as long as it's out there and we know it's out there, many of us believe that as long as the numbers stay high, because we had asked this question before, what is the threshold? When the threshold was very low, we had shut everything down, correct? Now we're thinking about opening everything up when the threshold is high. So as long as those numbers out there, it seems to be dictating everything that evolves around this state. What's your, I should say, what's your idea about that?
I don't know, your question was hamajang, man. I mean, I'll try my best to answer your question, but
well, basically
the way you asked the question was like super complicated. You gotta keep it simple for me, Uncle Charlie. Like, I'm very simple-minded, and that's why we have very relatively keep it simple type of strategies, because my brain cannot process when it gets too many moving parts. And you gave me a big, broad question, but I'll do my best. Here's the deal. Like, look, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion as a non-medical expert, but just as a person that's put in a position to lead, taking a look at what's happening in other cities, tracing back through the history and the timeline of the very first case and how quickly that one case spread, and taking a look also at the characteristics of this particular virus, I think it's a big mistake to put certain benchmarks in place to say these are trigger points when we should be concerned. And I say that because, one, we know this, this virus is asymptomatic in many different people. It's sort of like Russian roulette, and things are changing as time goes on. There's a lot more young children getting sick. There are younger people that are healthy that are getting really sick. And so things are evolving, but just based on how exponentially quick one case can expand into 5, and if those 5 people have contacts with 5 other people, just how quickly the numbers can multiply. I really think that to have certain levels where a trigger of concern is engaged is a mistake, because by the time you hit that level of concern, it could quite frankly be almost too late. Just like these cases that are coming in every day, 100 on Oahu. If one person lives in an overcrowded household, and many people do, where you have 3 or 4 different generations living under the same household, 3 people have underlying health conditions. If that whole household gets sick and those 3 very elderly people that have conditions end up in an ICU bed, this is where you start to see healthcare systems getting overburdened, and healthcare workers starting to get sick as well, just because of the lack of protective equipment, being overworked. And so I think that we have to be clear that you do not control a virus. A virus is a part of Mother Nature. And I know people think that it was created or whatever, but look, a virus is Mother Nature. You don't engage in a war against Mother Nature or try to control her. She will win every single time. The best that we can do is learn how to coexist with this virus as it moves about. And you take a look at countries like Japan, who from before they wear masks. Every transaction in Japan is almost contactless. I mean, it's all, you know, they give you a tray with your money, you take it, and everything is very clean. There is a culture of courtesy in Japan that exists that is going to allow them to be relatively successful, in my opinion. They don't shake hands, everything is bowing. And because of this, I think they're gonna be successful. So I think we can do everything that we try to do as far as testing, contact tracing, but until we get it together collectively to say, look, the key to unlock our freedom is to be disciplined and have the integrity to be doing the right thing when nobody is watching. We're gonna continue to struggle because this virus requires a change in behavior, and to avoid getting sick and getting other people sick in order to be successful. Because yeah, they're working on vaccines and there is signs of promise, but it's hard to create a vaccine for a coronavirus. I mean, they have not come up with a cure for the common cold. And so we have to do our part to realize what the situation is. And in my opinion, and like I said, this is just my opinion as a small town mayor that has a background in the grocery business, but does take a look at what works and what doesn't work. But in my non-medical based opinion, until we can get people to do the right thing, like wearing masks. And I know it's kind of like awkward. Like if you go to a gathering and everybody is not wearing a mask and you're the one guy with the mask on and you start, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't like to be that guy. But until a bigger group can realize that, hey, we just got to do what we got to do. Just wear a mask. You know what I mean? I know it's uncomfortable, but just do it. Until we realize that, like, this is what needs to happen, we're going to continue to struggle with this virus. And that's just my opinion. So people got to get it together. Just wear a mask, whether you believe in it or not. Just do it because, you know, we got to come together. And it ain't political on Kauai. There's no conspiracy, you know. It's just what we got to do to take care of this little island.
Sorry for the chuckle. I just I just thought that we were like so close to another shirt, man. Damn it. But anyway, I'm sure we still get a little bit more time. We still get a little bit more time.
What
Um,
else is out there? Like what? Pole Holly? I
no, I
mean,
think what I wanted to do, Mayor, was the indoor gatherings because we know that you were first again bringing back down the indoor gatherings. We know from what we hear that's happening on Oahu and even on Kauai for that couple of spikes that we had. The the congregation of people in an indoor environment not wearing masks and not following the rules. So again, leading the pack, you lock down or reduce the indoor capacity to 10. Again, I support 100%. If you could you explain that to the people? I know we had a couple of people asking about. It's confusing. It's pretty clear to me. Indoors 10, outdoors still 100, practicing social distancing. But can you touch on that a little bit and the rationale
yeah.
that you used?
So like we did this, like this is another measure that Kauai jumped ahead of, everybody else because, what we do is we take certain findings and we apply it, right? Like, so as we started seeing case count rises on Oahu and understanding that now we literally have a bridge across every island. So folks, whatever Oahu's number is, you better start accounting it that this is our number too, because now we're all connected through the airline industry without any quarantine. So that's the mindset you got to have is that, oh no, Kauai is all good. We all cherry. No, you know what? You still have people traveling and moving back and forth. We still have people flying to Oahu, going back and forth. So the risk is there. So what we did is we said, look, we understand now at this point in time that the bigger risk is these indoor gatherings where people are in somebody's living room, because when they do the contact tracing and investigation, they come back with information saying that these are tied to indoor gatherings where nobody was wearing a mask, or to some big gathering where there was singing and nobody was wearing masks, no physical distancing. So we know the bigger risk is indoor gatherings versus outdoor gatherings. So what we try to do is we try to encourage people that, look, if you guys gotta gather, like do it outdoors, but do it now with our mask mandate. You gotta wear a mask if you're in an outdoor gathering. And sorry to bum everybody out that doesn't want to be at a rager, you know what I mean, and have to physical distance and wear a mask. But just like this is just, it's a new situation. Like we gotta adapt and change. And if you cannot adapt and change, man, it makes it hard to survive a situation. So that was the whole concept, is we jumped ahead of everybody to kind of, shake things out of the mud. And we said, look, if the risk is indoor gatherings, we're going to limit the amount of people. And it's hard to enforce, right? Like, because I mean, how are you going to enforce, an indoor setting? But let me tell you, we all take pride in being good hosts, right? Like that is our aloha spirit. It's sort of equates to that Southern hospitality. When somebody comes into your house, you make sure everything is all cherry. You make sure you serving people, you know what I mean? Like that's just the way we do it. If you're gonna have a gathering indoors, the best way you can be a hospitable host is to tell everybody wear a mask, because who knows, I might be walking around with this virus. I wouldn't want to send you guys home unknowingly. It's just showing that we care. So that was the whole mindset. Now, whether we keep it at 100 or start scaling it back after what we saw happen at Polihale, which I have my own strong thoughts and opinions on. Look, the discussion on scaling back that number from 100 to something like 50, 25, or whatever that magic number is going to be a topic of discussion. And so that was the mindset, is we really led the way. We didn't really know what other counties were going to do, but at our point in time, we felt it was the right thing to do, to encourage people like, look, if you got to gather, go do it outside. You know what I mean? Go do it. It's safer. Wear a mask, wash your guys' hands, try to keep some distance, but an outdoor setting is much safer than an indoor setting with poor circulation. So we try to encourage people to do the right thing. We try to guide them without being too heavy-handed, but sometimes, man, you got to drop the hammer. And we're trying to avoid that. So the more people can get it together so we don't, have to do that, the better it is for me, probably everybody else.
Okay, Mary. Someone had asked, and I can see why. Um, with all that's happening nationwide, when store employees are asking people to wear their mask, that ends up in violence. In Hawaii, as far as the enforcement portion, who does that? I guess a store would make the first approach to tell a person you need to
Yeah,
wear a mask.
yeah, that's a good question. And you know what? Coming from the grocery industry, yeah, the first line of that sort of enforcement is incumbent upon the business. Like, it's the cost of doing business. Like, you are in charge of securing and making sure that rules and laws are followed in your organization. That is something that business owners have to accept as a responsibility, because we just don't have enough police officers to go around. And then, of course, for the property itself, they can engage in private security companies. That's what we encourage. Shopping centers, big organizations, like, look, you got to bear the burden of some of this cost of keeping your workers and customers safe. So if you got to hire a security company to help you, you got to do that too. And then, of course, it becomes our law enforcement officers. I got to tell you this: if somebody has a medical condition where they cannot wear a mask, hey, we get it. Like, it is what it is. But they should also understand that if they have a medical condition that they cannot wear a mask, they might have a respiratory condition, and that puts them at a higher level of risk. So they really should try to see if somebody can help them get some of these things done for them, without having close contact. Hey, as a grocery store owner, prior, family that owned a grocery store company, I thought about what in the world would I do if I was faced with somebody that said, I'm not going to wear a mask. What I would say is, the first conversation I would have is say, I understand, sir or ma'am. Here's what we'll do. Why don't you get your shopping list over to us? I will have an associate. In fact, I myself will go and get these items for you. I will come out. We'll do the transaction. Why don't you have a seat, or go sit down in your car and relax, and we'll get somebody to get this shopping list done for you. What's your phone number? If something is out of stock, we'll give you a call. I would try to treat this like any sort of ADA compliance issue and make a reasonable accommodation. In my opinion, going and shopping for somebody because it's not safe, or because there is an ADA sort of barrier, making that type of reasonable accommodation is a way that some of these businesses can engage with these type of customers. And if somebody still says, no, I'm going in, look, you have the right to refuse service. And if it becomes to a point where it's very contentious, by all means, call our law enforcement. We do not want you to handle these type of potentially violent situations on your own. This is what our law enforcement officers for. But there are different layers of intervening on difficult situations that should be applied. And depending on how difficult that particular individual is, they got to make judgment calls. Everybody has to make a judgment call, and they have to judge when it's time to start calling in, our police department.
Okay. My last question, and you had mentioned it earlier, is pole hale. I mean, a lot of people have expressed their frustration, their anger that something so beautiful, because of the large gatherings. And to be honest with you, I didn't know it was that much until I started to see some of the postings, from one end. I mean, it looks like about a mile, just side by side, going all across that white sandy beach. What's your feeling about that? The closure of pole hale.
I'm irritated. I am concerned. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Look, I'm pissed at this, and I tell you why. It's because it needed to happen. They needed to shut that place down, because because of what happened. You know what I mean? And people are saying, oh, you know what? There should have been enforcement. But there's no way. I mean, Docare is dealing with a skeleton crew of officers that they have to be able to cover the amount of, you know, state land that they have to manage. Mel and Charlie, you folks probably know, as former police officers, we probably could have sent every single officer from KPD out to that crowd, and all we would be doing is putting our law enforcement officers in harm's way, because that crowd was probably way too large for them to bring any type of control to that situation. And look, it's been happening, and this is our own people doing it, and that's why I'm so irritated. And you know what? I hate to say it, but let's just say it. Like, I am not, let's make it clear. I am not promoting any sort of vigilantes, violence, but I am promoting that our community needs to understand that it's everybody's kuleana to take care of this island. And I tell you what, if you out there and you see something going on that's not wrong, and you don't find a way to intervene or let it be known that you don't agree with what's going on, in my opinion, almost just as bad. You know, when we were growing up, like, and it was a different time, you didn't have camera phones, and of course there was a different level of what was acceptable regulation than in this day and age. But if you were surfing and you were dangerous out there or doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, there would be corrective action that would be applied to that behavior almost immediately. And even if we were in the wrong place or at the wrong time growing up as juveniles, it wasn't the cops that we were afraid of. It was the uncles that hang out at those locations day in and day out. And like I'm saying, I'm not saying to go back to those times, but look, it worked. In this particular day and age, I think if we see something not sitting well going on in our community, we got to find a way to be able to talk it out. And I know it's uncomfortable, and we want police officers to do that job, but we just don't have enough. Hey, if you don't feel comfortable, let's come up with a plan. Let's maybe go in with 3 or 4 people and just approach the individual and say, hey, you can do me a favor, you can stop that, because get families, and just be straight, you know? Like if like my home spot is Kalapaki. If I roll up there and if our crew is down there and somebody is doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing, you can almost guarantee that one of us is going to very nicely go up to the person and say, hey, what you doing? You know, stop that, you know, or at least trying to intervene. But if we cannot find the ability for this community to say, like, look, it's everybody's responsibility to take care of our resources and our special places. When things get shut down, we cannot whine about it, because look, the rules is clear. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, how much more educated you got to be not to go race up and down on a beach? You know, have to have respect for special places like Polihale, which is, you know, is Wahipana is a sacred place out there. You know what I mean? Like, when you got 80 permitted campers out there and you have over 1,000 people, it's not like a small group. You can't say, oh, it's a small group. No, it's a huge group, you know, and it is what it is. You know, people probably learned their lesson, and they probably thought, yeah, I was out there, but wasn't me. And that's fine and dandy. And I don't mean to make enemies out there, because I got enough of my own already as it is. But that's my God honest opinion and feelings about it. You know, I love the beach. Of any mayor, I'm probably the one that enjoys the ocean the most. And you know what? Polihale and all these beaches are like, they're like, that's like my church. You know, that's why when I surf, that's when I'm praying. You know what I mean? And that's where I get humbled. And when we gotta lose access to a place, and it hurts all these responsible families, or even families that never went out to Polihale. You know how much people never went out to KA until this moment in time, and they said, finally, we can actually get out there and enjoy it. Man, that's what makes my heart smile. Get so much families that planning to go out Polihale because they never could, you know what I mean, go. And then finally, when they're about to get out there, it gets shut down. Man, that hurts like everybody. So, hey, it is what it is. I hope this is a learning experience for all of us. We cannot put the whole burden on government to do the right thing. Like, look, we got to take our communities back in a way that is nonviolent. And so, you know, Mel and Charlie, even like our own parks, I'm tired of our caretakers and our custodians getting slammed for not doing their job. I go and work directly with these folks to see how hard they work. They work hard, but you know what? Their spirits are broken because they work hard. They take pride in their work. They come back in the morning and the place is completely trashed. And you know what? They shrug their shoulders and they get back to work. But you cannot expect the morale to be good when our own people is busting up stuff. You know what I mean? And it's sad, you know? And that's why one of the things I want to do, and people have reached out, and I think it's a great idea, but we should do some beautification projects, and we should have some of the uncles, yeah, the uncles come out and paint some of our restroom facilities and repair some of those repairs, because that sends a signal to everybody out there that, yeah, if you like bust this place up, you're not busting the county of Kauai up. You busting, these uncles put in the sweat equity, the blood, sweat, and tears. So you're gonna bust this thing up. You straight out disrespecting these guys. Yeah, I don't care if you're disrespecting me, you know, and if you wanna, you know, retaliate against me, that's fine and dandy. Bring it. But once you start disrespecting the people that live and use these areas, you better be careful about getting caught, because it's going to be hard to unwind those actions. And so I think if we can get more community involvement to send the signal that, in a sense, we understand it's our responsibility to keep our communities safe. And like I said, I don't know if KPD is going to be upset with this because, you know, yeah, I got to make it clear. I'm going to say it again. I'm not condoning violence. There are ways that we can intervene as community members to make changes. You just got to have a plan. We should do that. Because I'm straight up irritated that Poleali got shut down. But you know what? If that was a county park, I would have done the same thing, because it is unfair, it is dangerous, and quite frankly, it's disrespectful to everybody else that uses that place on a regular basis, that calls that place and considers that place a part of their backyard. Sorry, not sorry.
No, I was kind of worried of what you were going to say because I had no idea, and because I have my own opinion on that. And I got to tell you, Mayor. Well, you said two things: respect, Juliana. I think that's critical. I am pissed off as well, and I am pissed off because of the people that are complaining now, coming out and saying, and basically blaming DLNR, blaming DLNR, who has a staff of 7 enforcement officers that gotta have a day off, that, you know, 4 a day or 3 a day. I am pissed off because this community, island-wide, I'm not gonna pinpoint anybody, but this community has been warned about the abuse of Poleali. This didn't just happen one weekend and DLNR came down and shut it down. No. And I tell you right now, a lot of the people whining on Facebook and on social media were well aware. You know, remember the first show, I think, Mary, you came on and you said, if you guys cannot be responsible, I'm going to clip it. I'll never forget that. Yeah. And these people were warned. These people were informed. You know, Kipia Khan is the division chief, DLNR. I had a good long talk with him. He gave me all the statistics. He talked to me about the Department of Health regulations for toilets and the capacity of camping permits. And I'm not sure, he told me 60. The media has been portraying 80. I don't care. Let's just give them 80. We had over 1,000 people there. Yeah. Parking on the beach, illegal. Racing on the beach, illegal. Drinking on the beach, illegal. You cannot, and Charlie can back me up on this. What are you going to do? You can send all 7 enforcement officers. It ain't going to work. For me, it was a problem for probably more than a month. It's been a problem that Those DLNR guys have been trying to get across to the community. You guys got to ease up, or you're gonna lose this. In Derek's words, we're gonna clip it. And no one listened. They kept going. And if they went there to camp, that's one thing. But they went and destroyed and damaged and messed up the place. That's where, Mayor, when you talk about respect and kuleana, that's exactly the point, that they had zero respect, zero kuleana. The DLNR officers told me that they went into the heiau.
Yeah, and used the restroom in the
heiau. Use the restroom in the heiau and let the toilet paper, the soiled toilet paper, right there in the heiau. Now, I cannot fathom. I'd be afraid to do that only because of the karma that I just wouldn't do that. But it was also digging holes in the sand along the beach. What, 2 miles of beach covered with trucks parked. A lot of these guys, my friends, a lot of these guys, my relatives. I'm not here, like you say, man, I'm not here to make enemies, but come on, guys. What pisses me off is where they blame enforcement. Well, you guys could have been in there and only take permit holders. So after the 80th permit holder went in, where did out of 920 people going? What you gonna tell them, sorry, turn around? And then the public would be all pissed off because we blocking access. So I agree with you, Mayor, 100%. I agree with the decision by the DLNR. And I'm telling you guys, don't blame DLNR. Respect kuleana. Respect kuleana. That's what you should be upset about, it. The people that failed to take care of our own place. That's so I share. Thank you for bringing it up. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And we should like have a plan so that we can engage with some of these people and give people the tools of what they should do to sort of not just be a bystander that turns. I mean, what you gonna do if you see one kid getting beat up, in one parking lot? Like if you walk by and you let that happen without some sort of intervention, you just as bad in my eyes. You know what I mean? Just like if somebody comes down and disrespects one of your surf spots or your backyard or your community, and you absolutely do nothing to intervene. And it could be calling a police officer. Maybe that's your level of comfort. Or maybe it's going and saying, oh, excuse me, you can do me a favor. You can please not do that. You're scaring everybody, or you know what I mean? I get my kids, please. And if they get confrontational, back up. And you know what I mean? I don't want to put people in harm's way, but that's why I think we really need to have a plan to sort of have the community be at least one layer of intervention so this kind of nonsense stops. You know what I mean? Like I said, if these things happen in certain areas, guaranteed somebody would have intervened at some level and say, hey, stop, cut it out in other language. And if it doesn't cut out, then there'd be different layers, imposed on that intervention. But hey, if we keep on passing the buck and saying, oh, nah, that's their job, it's DLNR, it's somebody else's job. You know what that is? That's taking no responsibility of places that is ours. You know what I mean? Holy Haole is a public space, it's ours. And you know what? That means it's part of yours and yours and then yours. And if you can let somebody come onto something that is part of all of ours and do that kind of stuff and think it's okay, what can I say? But I disagree.
Well, I think what's to come, like what happened in Haena, it took a disaster, right? It took the flooding to make the correction. Now, it's limited. The use is limited. There's a capacity. It's just going to happen to Pole Haole. And then people are going to complain again. The end of the day is what happened was wrong. And I think it's even more wrong. And I see some comments about, I should know better because I'm law enforcement, former law enforcement. Exactly, I should know better because that's what I did. That's what I do till today. And I think that what the action that was taken was absolutely correct based on what happened. That was way too much disrespect on that entire place. And that's just it. Sorry, I don't piss people off. I'm just being real.
Yeah, but we all get opinions, so they get their opinions. As mayor, I get my own opinion. You have your own opinion. We're all entitled to our own opinions, and it is what it is. If our opinions differ, hey, sorry, you know what I mean. But I deserve to have one. You got one, so
Yeah,
I
I
feel
think
bad about it.
what frustrates me, and maybe it is my bias to law enforcement, is when you put the blame on the cops or the DLNR, because they did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong, and when you get 7 people for going force, that's just not going to happen, and we know that. And so anyway, I'm curious to read look. Have PMRF fire missiles. That's what's in. That's not my comment. Charles,
Yes, sir.
what you got, buddy? We are way past our time. I appreciate you, Mayor. Man, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I actually, you know what? I know it's been a long break before I got on this show, but I really appreciate it. And as much as I can, or if you guys want me to come back, and if everything clicks together, I love coming here because there's I think I feel a lot more comfortable giving a little more than I'd give like the regular media channels, just because I gotta make sure I watch what comes out of my mouth. And with this target audience, I know that I still have to sort of watch what I say, because anything I say can and will be used against me. But I feel a lot more comfortable giving sort of a little more unfiltered uh, viewpoint from my perspective on many different situations. And I love this venue. And you know what? I gotta express this to everyone else. If people like Mel and myself can come together after all of our differences and everything that we've been through on the campaign, if we can come together for the right reasons during the right situation to pull this community together, there's no reason why other people cannot mend fences and come together to move forward for the greater good of this island that we love. And whether your political beliefs are to the right or to the left, and look, people that want to judge me, look, I'm right in the middle. All right. I don't even agree with both sides of the party. I take issues issue by issue. And if anybody has an issue with that from either party, then sorry, it is what it is. But if we can put aside our differences and understand that we are trying our best to rally this community, because this is what it's going to take to get us through this situation. And I'll be straight, government cannot do it on its own. At this point, if the community is not going to meet us halfway, it's going to be hard, and it's going to be long, and it's going to be a drawn out process. So the faster people can get it together to put aside their differences and understand that this is a time where we got to come together. If there's any island that can do it, it's this island. If there's any 2 people that can come together publicly and show that it can be done, I think it's Mel and myself, and we are able to do that. So there's no excuse why anybody else can't do it. Right?
Chicken skin moment. Chicken skin moment.
Yep.
Oh, Patsy said that's a shirt. That's a shirt.
That's a long shirt.
No, actually, I think aside from the campaign, aside from the race, I think we've agreed a lot more than we've disagreed on. And honestly, I was actually going to crack a joke, but I'm not, because it's not. Well, I will. I wait for the day you screw up so I can blast you on
your show.
Live, but you know what? You've led this county. I've seen people right now posting they want to borrow you. That ain't going to happen. That's just not going to happen. They're on Oahu or whatever. They like borrow you. That's just not going to happen. But again, you A and B. You make a choice. Indecision is a decision, right? Indecision is a decision, and Kauai has shown, and you and your team have shown time and time again, that we deal with the issue at hand, make a decision, and we move forward. you know, you played football. Charlie played football. I played football. Sometimes the coach called the play. You wonder, yeah. Why? Why? And then you realize when you score the touchdown and it's all good, and you go back to the bench and you realize, freaking coach, he was right. And I think in the beginning, and I'm not just talking about you, Derek, but all the leaders throughout the state, you talk about second guessing, people would be saying, why? Now, well, Kauai, I think we understand now, because from very early on, we got the low numbers, we got the zero numbers. We went for weeks and weeks and weeks and months without no cases. People understood that is why he was right. They were right. And so people at this stage in the game respect and trust our leadership, led by, of course, led by you. We trust our leadership. We trust our leaders at the EOC and at the you got a hell of a staff, man. You got a hell of a team. And so for us, we just wait for the guidance. We just wait for the guidance. And let's just do, as you said it earlier tonight, just do it. Just wear your mask. It's becoming a habit. It's just becoming a habit. And the longer this thing takes, the easier it'll get. But the idea is to get through this quickly. But the only way we're going to get through this quickly is by following the rules, following our leaders. And that's what I think Kauai is best suited for, because of how this thing played out from the beginning, thanks to you and your team. So, sorry, that's another long T-shirt. So I want to hear Charles. He's like thinking, and I want to see what he's got to say. Because, like, we never know.
And you won't know. Someone asked about funerals. We still at that 10-person benchmark for funerals?
You know what? It applies, that indoor gathering applies to more social setting, because the churches have their own capacity limits. Yeah, because you have really big churches that can properly accommodate more people. And then, of course, you probably have smaller places of worship that even the 10 is going to be pushing it. So for those organizations, restaurants, private businesses, churches, they have their own capacity limits. And then, of course...
So would the funerals be considered that, like, say, the chapel? Where, so they're probably... I know most places they use the 50% capacity, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is what I want to say. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mayor. You said something that's it's sort of been my motto, and I said two things. Everything is, this virus from Kauai has been scrubbed out. I always use the word scrubbed. The second is, when you go on a syndicated news channel, they only give you a period of time that I call a snippet, just a short. It's like an appetizer, and people want to hear more. You're always welcome here, because it gives you the venue of being unredacted, uninterrupted for 1 hour. Because sometimes it'll take you a while to lay down the whole foundation of what you're trying to get across to everybody. And I hope for the viewers tonight, I'm going to tell you right now, it's the first time we've hit numbers up to 390 viewers just on this show. But like last night was a prime example. When you start hitting in the thousands, and when we brought the nurses, the doctors and teachers on, you start hitting in 1,000. It's not about Mel or Charlie. It's about, for our viewers, it's about getting you the information. We don't want you to always be in a realm of speculation. That's what I meant about when a state needs to improve their messaging. Because if their messaging is not right, and if there's conflict from the top, it only leaves you one option, and that's you're going to speculate, because you just don't know what's the real answer. But having the mayor on tonight, letting you know, and we got a lot of people from other parts and some from the mainland U.S. We did cover a lot of things about Kauai, but we did touch on subjects that will impact every single county in the state. And last but not least, I hope that we all have responsibilities, and that is, if we let it fall at the wayside, then we're just as guilty.
How much viewers we had
tonight? Well, right now, just on the live, in live, it's about we had up to 390 just
Ah,
just on the live portion. But when you'll see the number when we close out tonight, because so many people are sharing this, all the numbers add up. Probably about two to 3,000.
but then the nurses got 1,000 something, and we only got 392. That number's kind of
No, no,
iffy.
no, no,
No,
no,
no, no, no.
no, no. The nurses when they were on, their highest number was like 185.
Oh,
But
I thought you
That's
said they was
why.
getting thousands, and I was like, only 390. You know what? It's Friday night. Everybody partying, huh?
Yeah,
Gotta
no,
behave out
no,
there. If you guys out there, do the right thing.
so
no. We
so just in closing, to our viewers, thank you so much for allowing us to bring you the discussion. And like we said before, we give you the info. You use it if you can, and if you can't, then that's fine. But that's one thing: we'll never put words into your mouths. We'll just give you the information. And we're so blessed to have our mayor. We have our mayor on tonight.
I'm blessed to have you folks, this whole community.
we'd love. It's an open invitation for you. I know. I always tell Sarah, just let us know when. We'll bump
Yeah.
anybody. We will bump to accommodate your schedule because I think it's important for the people to hear from you in this relaxed, informal, uncensored format, and it's always entertaining. It's always very informative, and I think this will break the records of the teachers and the doctors. I mean, I think the thing was up to like 7,000 viewers today.
What?
Yes, yes. I mean, yes, it was.
Oh, I cannot say what I was saying then. You might have to edit.
It's-
Nah, I don't think I
it's-
said anything too crazy. I mean,
Well, I
my
don't.
office,
I
like
checked.
Sarah
I
guys
kind
been
of.
telling me.
No, you
I
you
kind
did say something that a church is now being made. I got it right here. It's sorry, not sorry. So that's gonna be the new shirt.
I saw Sarah. Sarah just said, "I knew he was going there." So I'm not sure where you went that she's talking about because you went plenty places tonight, and I think. But again, it comes down to the people. We want to hear from our local leaders. We hear.
Yeah.
I think Charlie says it's best. You get KITV, KHON, Hawaii News Now. They'll talk to you for 15 minutes and they'll play 40 seconds of it. But we get to see you and hear you. And again, what we do on this show, we humanize people. People get to see our leaders. You're not so bad because you're pretty transparent anyway. You're always, but for the most part, people come on that our viewers don't know personally. They realize that everybody has a human side of them that's trying their best to make this happen and get through this. So that's what this show does. And I tell you, be honest, I'm proud of it. I didn't think it would. I thought we'd be done by now, but there's still a demand. We're going to keep doing it as long as we have viewers. And
This is a good venue. Like this is really valuable. You know why? Because just to be able to give the straight talk in a setting where I feel comfortable, and of course, I don't know how comfortable my staff is, watching and waiting and seeing what's gonna come out of my mouth. But I think I'm pretty measured with my words. And so, I'll be back. Tune in.
hey, I don't want to put you on a spot, but there's a couple of people asking maybe you can come on once a week, maybe once every other week.
I don't know. Maybe I would try. You know why?
No,
Because
no.
what people gotta realize too is like, oh, I get tired too. You know why? Right now on Kauai, we're dealing with, like, if people don't realize, we're dealing with 5 presidentially declared disasters. Like the flood in 18 is still, open. That Hurricane Lane aftermath is still open. We have that floods in Wailua by Wailua Bridge during the pandemic that is still open. Even though Hurricane Douglas skirted by and didn't really impact us significantly, that's still open. Of course, COVID-19. I don't know if we've ever had that amount of things juggling.
No.
Even though it's passed, for most people it's passed. Like there's still a lot of work and government work that's going on to address those issues. So I'm gonna try once a week, but then, oh man, sometimes I just come home and I'm tired.
I know. I just, I understand, man. I mean, it's. I know you guys are working hard, and and you know, we would be remiss not to thank your wife, Monica, for allowing you to do this. I know uh, Charlie has a wife, I have a wife, and for them it's tough because they lose you for that. It's not just the show; it's
They're
prepping. It's
stoked.
huh?
We're out of their hair. Like they, this is like probably equivalent to like us like being in a garage and they're like, oh, thank God that they're, they got their little boys club going on, and you know what I mean.
Well, when this is all said and done, we'll do that, man. We'll do a Facebook Live from. We'll go to your garage. You get the nice garage. Mine's
No,
too
not
small.
now. After Hurricane Doug, I tossed everything outside into that garage, and now I'm like, there's a hurricane disaster in my garage. I gotta go clean out.
Well, we'll go sit. We'll go kick back, relax. Charlie can play some music, and we can do a nice Facebook Live, sharing all the successes of this stinking pandemic. And I got faith, man. And we just wait for, like I said, we as a community wait for the direction, and most importantly, follow the direction, and we will all get through this. But anyway, Mayor, last thoughts, comments. What you got? I know we're in a half an hour longer, but
No,
go ahead,
I
man.
mean, look, time flies when you're having fun, and I gotta tell you once again, like I'm truly honored and blessed. We're gonna give the best guidance we possibly can. We're not gonna get everything right because there's no guidebook. But quite frankly, we're gonna do what we feel is right. We have a solid team that wants to lead, like we're hungry to lead. And if the other islands want to borrow us, they can. They just gotta follow our lead, even if some of the things are not mandates in their county, they can sort of just utilize the tools that we all have right now, and in that sense we're all in this thing together. To everybody that gave part of their Friday night up to watch us live, man, thank you so much. And I just gotta thank God and the Lord above for blessing me with the best island, with the best people, having a solid family. um, I haven't prayed more in my life than during these last few months. And, whether you believe in it or not, that's good. We all got different thoughts. I'm not trying to push my belief. But, um, if you're feeling lonely, I urge you to go read the poem. I think it's called Footprints in the Sand. Because this is a long haul and people are getting tired. And maybe the next episode or at some point we can bring somebody in that can give people good advice and how to get their frame of thinking and their mind in a good place to be able to handle the stress, the fear of the uncertainty, and whatever's on their mind. Because as much as we stress being strong physically, in this sort of situation, we have to strengthen our minds and put our minds in the right place. So at some point in time, we should be talking about that. But this community gives me the fuel and our team the fuel to keep on grinding. And we're going to do this day in and day out. And so the people can rest assured that they have a team that has the stamina and the strength to see this thing out. And every day that goes by, we just get stronger and tighter. And we're reminded every day of how blessed we are to be put in a position to protect people, because not everybody gets to be positioned. And we always thank our lucky stars that we are all here in this point in time to lead and try to protect. That being said, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mayor. And I ask everybody to pray for all of our leaders, all of our decision makers, all of the people involved in this pandemic, that we give them strength and courage and wisdom. And I mean, now is the time to reach out for that higher power, because we all need that, man. I mean, we do, we pray for you every night, Mayor, and it's been working, so we're happy about that. And again, as always, we thank you for being with us and spending that extra 30 minutes with us, man. We're blessed and honored. Thank you very much. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. Mary, go get some rest. Again, thank your wife for us. And I'm trying to find my mouse because it ran away. And tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. We love you guys. God bless. You guys have a safe and wonderful evening. Aloha.
Aloha.